Well, welcome to another edition of your No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm Dom Genova, your host every Saturday right here on News Radio Wham 1180. And my guest today is somebody, well, that everybody knows, Adam Bello, our county executive. Well, thank you for coming into my studio, the No Nonsense Roundtable studio.
Dom, it's my pleasure. I'm happy. Thank you for the invitation to be here. I'm happy to join you and to talk to everybody about what's going on in Monroe County.
Well, this is, for everybody that listens to the show, this is your third appearance here. And I think the last one was right after you got elected, I think, and right after COVID.
Yeah, I think we were eyeball deep in COVID back then, and the last time I was on. But I must have said something okay, right? Because you invited me back on, so it was fun. But luckily we have a lot of that past us, and we're moving on.
Yeah, I think I asked you if you wanted to give the job back.
Yeah, right. Well, I tell you, the first time I ran for this job, I don't think global pandemic was ever uttered once in the entire campaign. So it was a different experience.
Well, you had a job with the worst title in the world. I mean, a county clerk. I mean,
it's an interesting.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting job. It was. I loved it. I loved being the county clerk. But certainly. What we deal with today with the global pandemic, we're thinking about all the issues that come after that. It's a lot going on here, but I did love it. I did love the job though.
Well, you figure for how little they pay you, they could give you a better title. I mean,
yeah, I know.
okay, but okay. Now you gave me here's the gotcha question. Though.
Yeah.
Here's the gotcha question. You just said you loved being county clerk. What did you love about being county clerk?
Yeah, I love meeting people. I met so many different people when I was county clerk because you deal with a lot of different things. You're doing. It sounds okay. It does sound like it could be a boring job, right? You're the clerk. You're taking in court documents, things like that. You also run the DMVs, which can be a little stressful, right, for both the employees and the public. But you meet so many different people and you try to use the job to try to impact something that's going on in the world. You know, one way we did it was with zombie properties, zombie homes, these vacant properties pop up. That was something that was very important to me, very interesting to me when I was a town supervisor in Irondequoit. We dealt with a number of these properties that were tearing down property values. They invite crime into neighborhoods. And as a county clerk, you receive all of the land records, right? Deeds, mortgages, foreclosure filings, things like that. So we used those filings and access to those records to try to impact the issue of zombie properties by bringing people together, stakeholders, and figuring out different policies, laws that you can advocate for, resources, things like that, to try to turn these properties around. So they're no longer a blight in neighborhoods. So so what I did was I intentionally tried to make the job move beyond to just the day-to-day filings, but say, how do we use those filings to do something good and to do something interesting? And so I enjoyed doing that.
That's good. Yeah. And you leave leave the place a little better than the way you found it, I guess. So that's the thing. But
that's always everybody's goal, right? That's your goal in life, is to always just try to leave this world a little bit better than you found it.
Well, I can subscribe to that. Now, my favorite question is, what did you want to be when you were 10 years old? I love that question because you get such weird answers to that.
No, you really
wasn't county clerk.
It wasn't county clerk and it wasn't county executive either. Yeah. No. Honestly, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, Dom. I had no idea. I really didn't. I was a little lost. I always thought, if you look forward, I always thought I'd either be a teacher, a lawyer, or probably a cook, because I love cooking.
Ooh.
I still love cooking today.
We have that in common.
I cook every weekend. I cook for, the whole family comes over on Sundays. We do Sunday dinners. I cook for everybody. I love baking. All that. But no, politics was never something that I think I aspired to when I was that young, because I was always shy. I'm an introvert by nature, I think. Yeah. And so I was always very shy being in front of a camera, certainly being on TV, something like that, even on a radio show like this.
Really?
Oh, that would have driven me crazy. The stress and anxiety I would have felt to do that.
So how'd you get over that?
Practice, a lot of practice. You do it a lot when you're in public life, and it comes out of just doing the job, right? So my first job in public service was as a town supervisor for the town of Irondequoit, and you really try to put the politics aside. So you don't do that, but you just try to run the government. And if you just can talk and communicate to people about how you're running the government, what the public needs to know, give them information about what they need to know, you just start to grow into it and you learn to do it. But you'll make mistakes. No one's perfect, but I just sort of learned, by doing.
So the first election that you won, what year was that?
I was it was for town supervisor, and the year was 2003. So 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
Yeah.
And
feels like it was yesterday.
But you're like 42 now, right?
42 years old.
And so you're a town supervisor at 30?
Yeah, I was 33 years old.
You could barely drink.
And that's funny. I was a young guy. I had a young family. My kids were just a couple years old when I got elected. It was a family effort too. When I was out knocking on doors, there was a number of times I'd drag the kids with me. My son would actually love to go up to the door. He actually had a game he used to play, Dom. He was called the town supervisor game, and he would take my those we call them little palm cards that you leave in people's doors. Yeah. So he'd take my little palm card and a clipboard, and he'd come out. I'd be sitting on the couch at home, and then he'd come up and goes, "Dad, I'm going to play supervisor." And he'd walk over. He goes, "Hi, my name is Jack Bello. Will you vote for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll vote for you." He goes, "You will?" And he'd walk away with it. And so he had a whole game about it.
Well, there was an art to that. My dad was very involved in politics when I was a boy, and of course, he's Italian, right? And so he would take the mayoral candidate, and he said, "No, we have to go into the back door because that's where if you're a friend, you go into the back door, not the front door."
That's funny.
So is it?
Yeah, I love it. I love knocking on doors though. That's actually my favorite. Yep, a lot of candidates don't like it. I love doing it because you meet everybody. You quickly find out that Monroe County is probably the biggest small town in the world. If you talk to somebody long enough, you're going to find some way you're connected to them, right? Either through a job or relations or relationship, family, anything like that. You'll figure something out, and you learn. And you learn what's going on. Because sometimes what you see on the news, what you see certainly on social media, isn't always the real world. And when you're talking to people face to face, you actually get a better understanding of what's going on.
Well, I look at you, and I'm not a Republican, and I'm not a Democrat. I mean, I'll show up to, it's really fun. Well, we can even talk about this later. I'll show up at different events for different. And it's amazing the perspective you get from one side and the other side. But you have that. I'm not blowing smoke at you. Have that. I'd like to have a beer with that guy quality, and I think that's what in politics. I said to people someday. Sometimes that can make the difference between a percent or two and getting elected, and not getting elected. And I look at the difference between Al Gore and George Bush. It's like if I saw Al at an airport, it'd be like, oh, there's Al. Okay, George, I just want to.
You want to talk to him, right?
I want to talk to the guy.
Yeah. No, because some people in politics are very guarded, right, and very close, keep everything close to the vest. What I try to do is just let people know I'm a real person too, right? I have the same challenges any other family has. I just raised, especially COVID was a really good example of how to talk about it. Is my wife is in education; she works in a school. I have 2 children who are in school, and I have I have parents and in-laws, who also have their own health challenges, on and off. So you try to figure out. I was living the same life at home that everybody else was living and looking at, and so I try to find ways to relate to what people are going through, and I think that helps. It helps me be a better leader, and it also helps just connect to people and give people the right advice on.
Well, that's the other thing I say about people. I have people on the show sometimes, and some people that are in very unusual positions of people that you think would be different are just regular guys. Just like Phil Saunders. Phil Saunders. There's a regular guy.
Yeah.
You talk to Gene Corn, regular guy. I mean, some people just regular guys, and I think it's a good thing.
And for some reason in politics, people lose that. They don't see that, but they see politicians or government officials. We're all just people.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're going into a break, and we'll see you on the other end. Well, you're back listening to the No Nonsense Roundtable. I'm here with our county executive, Adam Bello. So you were 32 years old when you were town supervisor, and that's the first thing you ran for was town supervisor. That's a pretty big lift for the first time.
Oh yeah, it's a pretty big town. Over 50,000 people. It was a big deal, but and I was nervous running for it. Obviously, you have self-doubt like everybody does, and but I had a good team around me, and
your name ends in a vowel, which doesn't hurt in
Irondequoit.
Yes. That does help.
Okay. It didn't hurt.
All right. Okay. The question I asked somebody a couple of shows ago. Okay. Do you know what a sfogliatelle is? Oh, you don't know what a sfogliatelle? This is going to be my question until somebody answers it. It's this clam pastry.
Okay.
It's this with crusty clam looking pastry. It's a sfogliatelle, and if you can spell it, I'm going to have some contest where if somebody knows what it is and they can spell it, they're going to get $500.
And the listeners cannot see the look I just gave Tom. I think my eyes got really big, and I just shook my head no.
You thought it might have been
I said, are you crazy?
You thought it might have been a crime. Oh my Lord. Oh jeez. So, let's talk about the county. The thing about Rochester is that, we're so self-deprecating sometimes. I know we have problems and there's things to handle, but let's talk about a little bit of that, because I think we'd be remiss if we didn't. And then let's go on to some of the things that are going on progressively that people don't know about. So I'm going to let you have at it.
Sure. Well, first of all, I do love Monroe County, and I do think you're right. Sometimes we are a little hard on ourselves, right? Because you even look at, go back, 30, 40 years, we were Kodak town, right? We're a Kodak town, Xerox, Bausch and Lomb, and things have changed over the last, couple of decades. And and so some people, they look at just like the good old days are gone and there's nothing future, but they don't see all the great things happening around us and how we have changed, but sometimes change is good. Yeah,
and to your point, and I made reference the other day to, Malik said that. Malik said, we used to be a company town. He says, now he says we need to be a town of companies. I thought that was a pretty good way of wording that. I'm sure you can subscribe to that.
That's exactly right. And if you're sort of stuck in that old mindset, you're not going to see that, right? But we really are. We have a growing economy where we still are an economy that was founded on innovation, entrepreneurship, and that's still who we are. If you think about the University of Rochester, RIT, and the graduates that are coming out of these colleges and universities, they're second to none across the world. We have, in terms of the entire country, one of the highest per capita numbers of college degrees and advanced degrees per our population coming out of here. So we're educating young people. We have a very educated workforce, and out of that spurs this new innovative and entrepreneurial economy, and that's really where I think we need to put some investment into the future to try to keep these young people here. Because while we have one of the highest per capita number of college students and graduate students in our region, we could also do a much better job keeping them here. We have one of the lower rates of retention. So really working with the colleges and universities, we have some programs we've engaged in where we try to get creative around incentivizing college graduates to stay, connecting college graduates to jobs that exist here. And then also there's some great things happening in the private sector. Downtown, look at the towers that are being transformed into housing, right? Innovation Square, which is Andy Galena and the Galena family are developing that. Working with University of Rochester, RIT, to bring college students downtown, bring programs downtown for them, and that's it's being very successful right now. If you go over to that little area of downtown, you'll see young people walking around, and that's going to breed more growth and investment into the center city. And to have a strong county, you have to have a strong city. And so that partnership has to be there. But we really got to try to figure out a way to keep these young people here.
Well, but the elephant in the room, though, and I have to talk to you about it, is crime and the schools. So I mean,
absolutely,
just give me a little bit of
absolutely,
little bit of your read on this.
Yeah, I mean, we cannot be successful if we don't get a handle on the violence that's facing this community. And unfortunately, I think what we see too from a lot of people is this all or nothing approach on one side or the other, whether or not there needs to be more police intervention or whether or not there needs to be more preventative services. I actually think you need to do both. And the way the county has been engaging in this over the last year is we've been working very closely with our sheriff, Todd Baxter, who I trust and I think is a great leader. And we've put a lot more resources into our sheriff's department. We've added deputies to the department. to be able to help in the tactical units in the city of Rochester, be able to do more patrols in the city of Rochester. And so we're really working to support RPD in that work. But we also have made a lot of investments through our American Rescue Plan funding into these, to try to reach particularly young people who, with COVID, it kept everybody at home. It really destroyed support services that people have. And, the larger, the problems that we're seeing are coming from these unmet needs that these kids have that really were exacerbated during the pandemic. So being able to make those investments through the American Rescue Plan to reach these young people, to be able to wrap supports around these families, to try to prevent young people from falling into this life of crime, I think has to happen. So I think you have to be able to do both at the same time, because you're not going to be able to solve this problem that we have of violence, particularly gun violence, if we also can't get the criminals off the street. So
give me some particulars of the program that would benefit young people.
Yeah, I'm very proud of a program we're funding called The Hive, which really is an after-school program that has children will get bused to a location where they have support services. They have tutors available to help them with homework, to help with schoolwork. They also have access to games. They have access to, fun recreational activities to do. But it also wraps supports around families. So families need help with access to food. They need access to social support systems, things like that. It all provides it in one spot. So it's a one-stop shop for families where it helps the kids because instead of busing home where they might be home alone, they're in a supervised place. They have help with their homework. They have help, building relationships with other children. They have recreational opportunities, but then it also helps the parents and gives the parents a place to go if they need help as well. And I think that's a good model. I'm very proud of that. We're just in the contracting process of it right now to be able to utilize those funds, but we're hoping to kick that program off in just the next few months.
These are things that people don't know about.
No, they don't. And
generally speaking, that is hidden from. I mean, years ago, when you used to drive down the road, there was used to be a big sign: "This highway provided by blank, blank, blank," and you knew what was going on. You don't know these things are going on, just the general public, I think.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of activity. A lot of it's about coordinating the activity as well, because not just Monroe County. Monroe County is making a lot of investments, but so is the city of Rochester. The nonprofit community is doing a lot, and so one of the ways that we approach spending the American Rescue Plan dollars, which is to impact, these challenges that we're facing, was to put these requests, these RFPs out onto the street. And what we had asked to do is, number one, is how are you going to impact public health, public safety, workforce development? How are you going to impact that in a positive way? But also, how are you going to be sustainable, and how are you going to partner with other agencies? So we're trying to make sure that there's a partnership so that nonprofits, governments aren't competing with each other, but instead they're collaborating and partnering to make those dollars go further.
Yeah, and I think coming on shows like this helps quite a bit, because this stuff, like I said, is not on my radar, and I think that things on my radar has got to be not on other people's radar too. We are headed into a news break, but I want to talk to you more about maybe Italian pastries when you, when you come back. I stumped him. See you after this. Well, welcome back to the No Nonsense Roundtable. We're talking to Adam Bello, our county executive, good guy. And we're talking about, during the break, politics and the way things are working these days and how we're getting pulled from side to side. It seems like years ago, we had kind of a general consensus of things, and people were either on one side or the other. Now there's 16 different sides, and everybody's pulling us from the edges. And I really do think that's part of our problem. Don't you subscribe to that?
I do. I think, too often our politics, because that's what gets attention, right? If you go on TV, you watch Fox News or MSNBC or CNN, the loudest, it's whoever says, or even just go on Twitter, whoever says the loudest, most extreme view is the one who gets the most attention, right? And that's an unfortunate part of where our politics has become. I think social media helps to drive a lot of that as well. People will say crazy things just to see how many likes or retweets they get, right? But it's not solution focused, right? And it doesn't get you anywhere. And so, where I try to approach this is looking for consensus, right? Where can we get people back to the middle to try to get something done? And it's all around how do you impact something? At the end of this past year, we actually ended the last legislature cycle in the county in a successful way doing this. We passed our budget, our county budget. It's a $1.3 billion budget. We passed it unanimously, Democrats and Republicans. We have a divided legislature, but we got that budget through. It contained a pretty significant property tax rate cut, but also made really good investments at the same time in public health and public safety. So we're able to make the right investments, still provide some relief, but we got it done unanimously, which doesn't usually happen in Monroe County government. The American Rescue Plan funding, it's $100 million grants from the federal government. Again, we got that approved, and we even managed to get through a redistricting process as well with a nearly unanimous vote in redistricting. But again, it was Democrats and Republicans coming together. So we've had a lot of success with that. We actually just did a bipartisan announcement last week as well around property tax exemptions for our seniors and people with disabilities, and we even cut the sales tax for clothing here. We all in a bipartisan way, and so we're really trying to focus on getting the politics out. Just get something done. That's all people want. I mean, if you, like I said earlier in the show, I love knocking on doors, right? I've never knocked on a door and someone told me, Adam, you're being too bipartisan, right? you got to say something crazier on TV. It's always about, what are we doing?
Well,
what are we doing?
Bipartisan's not sexy. I mean, it's not.
It's not going to sell tweets, is it?
It's not going to sell. Yeah, it's not going to sell tweets.
No, you're not going to get a lot of retweets from it, but you're getting something done.
Right,
get it done. That's what people are looking for. What did you do for me? That's what people want.
Well, ultimately, the only way you can get something done in a political process is either by domination or negotiation. You either have to have enough votes to get it done by yourself, or you have to negotiate. And now the fringes are starting to pull the negotiations away, where you can't even get your own side to agree with you. And that's, oh my God, I don't know how you deal with that.
No, we try, it's tough. Politics can be a tough game. Washington, you look what's going on in Washington, right? It's like, it's seeming like you're heading to a year. It's going to be very difficult to get anything done, right? Because you have a lot of extremes there. You see them on TV spouting off, but here in the county, we're trying very, very hard.
You can only play the cards you're dealt. Now, you mentioned something before the show, and I am totally unfamiliar with, in COMITA. So let me point you in the direction of COMITA.
Sure. So COMITA is the industrial development agency. So I just confused you more that the county has, but it's essentially what it is. It's an independent body that grants exemptions, like it can grant like a sales tax exemption or also a property tax abatement to a company that wants to come here and build, but can't make the project pencil, right? So it needs a little bit of help in terms of reduction in taxes. So it doesn't hand out a tax break, like in the sense that it doesn't grant you a $2, $3, $4, $5 million check, but what it does is it cuts your tax bill to make the project pencil, where before that tax break it wouldn't be able to build. In exchange for that tax break, the company has to make a number of commitments. It has to commit to how many jobs it's going to create. It has to commit to a timeline. It has to commit to paying future taxes, and it also has to pay a fee to COMITA as well. And so one of the reforms that we made to COMITA this year, because I wanted to change the way people think about COMITA, because it used to be thought about as just like a tax break entity where it's just going to hand out tax breaks to wealthy developers
and get nothing from it.
Get nothing from it. We can't have that. There has to be a public benefit, a public good in exchange for the public making that investment in your company. So whether that public good is the creation of jobs, and holding them accountable to their commitments to create those jobs. But what we've also done is take a look at the fees that companies are paying COMITA. So COMITA has accumulated these fees. So in exchange for the tax abatement, the company pays a fee. And Comita's been collecting those. So what we did is we worked with the Comita board, who's been great to work with on this, to say, if we're going to take these dollars from these companies in exchange for tax money, we need to reinvest those dollars back into people. And how do we, to help support those companies to make them successful? So how do we do that? So Comita created a workforce development fund. They seeded it with $2.5 million. And the fund is going to be replenished over the years from every Comita project that comes in. Every developer who pays a fee, a portion of that fee goes back into the fund to replenish the fund. And then the fund is going to be used to pay for workforce development projects to help invest in people, right? To train people to then work in the industries that the Comita is supporting. And I'll give you a really good example. So optics, there's a big optics manufacturing industry here in our region. MCC has a program. It's actually the only program in the world in precision optics manufacturing that has a 100% job placement rate. If you go to MCC and are accepted in this program, you will have a job. It's 100%. So that's the type of program we should be supporting and growing and building, because there's hundreds and hundreds of vacant jobs right now. They're just waiting for the trained workforce. So Comita enters into an agreement with MCC, contracts with MCC to underwrite the costs of the program, help to train that future workforce, and put those people to work. It's a perfect example of creating this ecosystem where the companies come, they ask for a tax break from Comita, an abatement, they pay that fee to Comita. The fee is then reinvested into training the workers, who can then go work for the company and make it successful.
Well, you are preaching to the choir here, because I preach that all the time, because you can go to college and have a great education, but not have a marketable skill. And it's more important for you to have a marketable skill and be able to support yourself and your family. And when you can do that, a lot of these other social issues start taking care of themselves. Wouldn't you agree?
I agree 100%. There's another program that Comita is funding, and the American Rescue Plan approved as well, is the multi-craft apprenticeship program called the MAP program, which helps recruit people into the fields of the building trades, right? With carpentry, electrician, things like that. Comita is underwriting the cost of the MAP program to help pay salaries for people that not only are they not going to accumulate college debt to learn these skills and go into the construction industry, they're actually going to get paid to do their training. Wow. So they're going to get paid, do the training, and then again, you enter one of the construction trades. Now you have a skill that nobody can take from you. Once you learn carpentry, once you learn how to be an electrician, nobody can take that away from you. You might switch jobs, you might be in a union, you might not be, but nobody can take that away from you. You'll have it the rest of your life, and that's a very valuable thing, and you don't come out with any college debt.
Right, and we need to honor those people that work with their hands and their minds and didn't necessarily go to college. And it's just a mindset that we have to change. And I tell you, I said, you're preaching to the choir with that. Well, with that, we are heading to another break, and we'll see you at the other side. Well, welcome back. You're listening to No Nonsense Roundtable. We're here talking to Adam Bello, who I already stumped with a gotcha question, asking if he knew what a sphylodel was, which he didn't know, but we're going to educate him with that. But at some point in your life, you did realize the difference between a calamari and a cannoli.
Yes, and I make a mean homemade cannoli too.
Do you?
Yes,
we're gonna have to talk about that. Yeah. I cook, but I don't. I cook, but I don't bake.
I love baking.
Yeah. I love cooking. My mother taught me how to cook when I was a boy, and I think of her every time I cook something. So we were talking about Comita and this program where it funds people to get marketable skills, and you're absolutely right. I mean, having owned a car dealership, if you were a diesel mechanic, you had a great life. I would have young mechanics in their 20s, and they would have houses and boats and a good life, and had been just as challenged going to school and learning these technical skills that you would if you had any other technical degree, but not having the college debt.
No, that's 100% right. And we also fund, we also have programs in the healthcare field. There's a huge shortage of healthcare workers. We do a program called Empower, where we even, partner with, we have a public hospital, Monroe Community Hospital. And we hire people to be CNAs that aren't quite CNAs yet. They don't have their certificate, but we'll hire them right on. underwrite the training at MCC, help paid for by Comida, called Empower, and then they come right back to work at MCH, and they're a CNA. And if they want job advancement, we'll offer the LPN training and then the RN training. So you're offering that skill, you're offering the career advancement and skill development, and you're connecting people to jobs. That's the most important part. And that is one thing that I really wanted to change when you think about workforce development, is making sure we're training people in a connection to a job. That was what was important, because you have these workforce development programs, which are great, and we're training people. But if it's not connected to a job, if we're just training people for a skill and then throwing them out into the world, what are you doing? You're really just spinning your wheels. What you really need to do is connected to what those open jobs are. That's why I like the optics program at MCC. It's connected to those companies and it's connected to those jobs, so people go right to work, right? The MAP program, again, it's a pre-apprenticeship program. So you go through that program. If you're successful, you have a guaranteed apprenticeship with one of the building trades unions, and you go right in, you get a job, you go right to work. And so that I think is a different mindset to how we used to do it. And that's where I think those targeted investments by Comida and American Rescue Plan will make a difference. One
of the things that we need to be aware of when we're talking on the No Nonsense Roundtable show is that primarily we're talking to people that are over 35, over 45 usually, and we're talking about people that have children and or grandchildren. Right. And I guess that compels the question, then if you have a child who you would think this would be a good direction for them to take, how do they contact you, or how do they take advantage of this program?
Yeah, so a couple different ways. So if you go to our website, the Economic and Planning Development website, you'll see information about programs there, but a lot of them are largely through MCC, Monroe Community College. But you'll see information about it right on our website.
And what is your website?
Yeah, monroecounty.gov.
Okay. And it does sound worthwhile. Now, you have a couple other things that are going on. You have a river project.
We have lots of things going on.
I call this the retail section of the show. So there you go. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen, I'm letting a politician have the microphone for a couple of minutes here and go right at it.
No, like I said, I love Monroe County. I think we're the great place to live and raise a family, and we have to make those investments as well, right? Because we want people to be happy here. We want to attract people. Yeah. I'm a big proponent of our park system. Over the last couple of years, we have invested a lot of money, millions of dollars into our parks to really invest in renovations, maintenance activities to make our parks second to none. We also announced last year a new exhibit at the Seneca Park Zoo. We're going to be breaking ground on that this spring. But it's completing the Seneca Park Zoo's master plan with this new Tropic Center. And the Tropic Center is an indoor rainforest. So think about the zoo now. It's very much weather dependent, right? To go. What we're building is a indoor rainforest. So it's going to be available year round. It's going to have new animals, Komodo dragons, bear cats, clouded leopards. Now, the clouded leopards in Houston, I don't know if you saw the story, actually escaped its enclosure last week. So we're going to have better enclosures than the Houston Zoo. But it's also, and here's going to be like the big piece of it, it's going to have over 200,000 gallon aquarium. It's going to be one of the largest single tank aquariums in the country to house sharks, things of that nature. So it's really going to take our zoo to that next level and provide an amenity that all families can enjoy. We also started a new tradition this past year with the Veterans Day Parade. So we're doing more things like that just to honor our veterans every year. And I thought that was very successful as well.
The zoo, the last time I had somebody on the zoo, they were talking about the naked mole rats. I'm sure you still have the naked mole rats.
Oh, we still have the naked mole rats. Yep. And we had a lot of births there last year too. We had 2 giraffes, baby giraffes that were born. Unfortunately, one did not make it. But we had Olmi there, who's growing very quickly. So we had a lot of success in the breeding programs at the zoo as well.
If you were to wave a magic wand, what would you hope this year would bring?
Well, that's a good question, Dom. If I can wave a magic wand this year, it would be that politics would get settled down, despite the fact that every year is an election year. But politics gets settled down, and we continue in Monroe County to work together to just get something done. I have been laser focused. My administration, it's public health, safety, infrastructure, workforce development. And I would really love this new approach that we have as a community of people working together with a goal in mind to move the needle. I really want to start to see the needle get moved. We have made a lot of investments coming out of the pandemic. The pandemic obviously put a freeze on a lot of things, right, in a lot of people's lives. Over the last year and a half, as we're coming out of that pandemic, we've made significant investments through the American Rescue Plan, through the county budget, and really have set the table. And so I'd like to see this community work together to really start to impact violence, to bring the violence down. We got to impact the opioid crisis that's taken too many people in our community. And then really start to turn around the way people feel about Rochester. We're about to host the PGA Championship in a few months. We're going to be on the world stage. We have a great story to tell, right? Our history here and where we're going in the future. The year after that, believe it or not, we've got the eclipse. I'd like to say I scheduled the eclipse. It's coming, but it's coming in 2024. People from, again, all over the country are going to be here to look at the solar eclipse. So let's start to turn around the narrative here.
Well, and it is a mindset. And I've always said, if you don't appreciate Rochester, live someplace else for a while. Yeah, I lived on Long Island. I lived in North Carolina, which is all well and good, but I mean, this is
I wouldn't want to live anyplace else.
This is great. I mean, the quality of life here with all the other things that you have. I mean, my wife calls it a concrete sky. Yes, you have a concrete sky, but you also have beautiful summers and festivals and jazz fest and. Festival in the park. I mean, it's just
the festivals are amazing here. We're a festival town. And think about my grandparents. Obviously, they grew. They grew their family here. The Bellos have been here for a long time. But they actually moved out to San Diego for about 10 or 20. Well, probably more like 20 years. My grandfather, he worked for Kodak and got transferred out there. They were very happy coming back home because they said San Diego, it's great. Yeah, it's great for a few years, but you get sick of high of 72, low of 68, partly sunny every day of the year. It rains. They have a rainy season for a day.
Well,
right. Well, here you have seasons. You have there's something fun to do every season. Well,
you also get a little tired of droughts, wildfire, hurricanes, and tornadoes.
Yes,
the lake effect isn't that bad.
No, it's not that bad. We have a few weeks of winter that's really tough.
Yeah,
and then you move on.
Yeah, if you could slice off 3 weeks of winter, things would be perfect.
Yep.
But anyway, thank you ever so much for coming in.
Thanks, Tom. I had a great time.
We're out of time. We're going to have to come back a little bit more often. I would love to have you here. And thank you for your time. It was delightful seeing you.
Thank you, sir. It was good to be with you.
Next week, 10 to 11, News Radio AM 1180, the No Nonsense Roundtable. Well, thanks for watching this YouTube. If you liked it, please like and share.